Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the paddock. Today's episode, we will be recapping the Austrian GP, and boy, oh boy, was it an interesting one. On the episode today, we have Ito, Amy, Meg, and myself, Rachel, with Hannah behind the scenes. We're going to just dive straight in with some circuit and race updates from Amy.
All right, so the Red Bull Ring made some pretty major changes, I would say, to avoid a repeat of last year where post-checkered flag race officials ended up handing out 12 penalties to 8 different drivers for track limit violations. They had more than 1,200 potential track limit violations to review last year, which was just absolute chaos. So these are the changes that were made. The FIA moved to install a 2.5 wide gravel strip behind the curb at the exits of turn 9 and turn 10. And then at turn 4, they moved the white line to make the distance to the gravel less than 2 meters so that drivers can't squeeze between the white line and the gravel. Curbs at Red Bull Ring are 2 meters, and there wasn't enough time to remove them and switch them for something similar to what was installed in China for the Grand Prix. The FIA have artificially shortened the width of the curb by moving the white line onto the curb. Well, with the curbs being red and white, because, it's Austria, they had to make that white line a different color because it's very hard to see a white line on a red and white curb. So to remedy that, there is an additional blue line behind it to make it easy for marshals and anybody else who is working the race, whether that's in person or remotely, to be able to tell if a driver is over track limits. Now, that's kind of it for track and race updates. So we are going to kind of get into some of the breaking news that happened coming into the weekend. And that is the fact that Alpine announced that Pierre Gasly will be staying with the team with y'all guessed it, a multi-year contract extension. Whatever that means. And Aston Martin also announced they have extended Lance Stroll's contract to, and I quote, 2025 and beyond, which really should not surprise anybody, to be absolutely frank. And Aston Martin also announced that they have extended Lance Stroll's contract to 2025 and beyond, which shouldn't surprise anybody, to be fair, because, it's Lance and it's Aston Martin.
Honestly, both of those announcements were so expected, in my opinion. I don't even know why they announced the Lance thing. Like, did it even deserve an announcement? He's Lawrence Stroll's kid, after all. And for those of you who don't know, Lawrence Stroll owns Aston Martin, and yeah. But what was interesting to see was Pierre's announcement, especially now that Esteban's leaving, and it will be super interesting to see who partners him, especially now that Carlos's name is also being thrown into the ring. I feel like, as so many drivers have said, as so many pundits have said, once Carlos knows where he's going, if he's going anywhere, the dominoes will definitely fall.
I feel like we've said it before, but I feel like so many of this silly season kind of hinges on what Carlos Sainz does and what Mercedes does, but that's a whole different episode. Another little fun fact that happened this race weekend, which if you listen to PGP frequently, you know how much we love a fun fact. And that is the fact that this was Danny Rick's 250th race, which I think is iconic. He came out with an awesome limited edition helmet that he did for his 250th race. I think it looked fantastic. It was very nostalgic, Danny. I really hope he kind of keeps doing that nostalgia vibe because I just personally really like it.
Honestly, I was so curious why the Danny rumors were flying this weekend, and it being his 250th race makes sense. I heard everything from he will be replaced in Silverstone to he will get an extension at VCarb or even Red Bull next season. Like, can that man just get over the suspense already?
The rumor mill really was going crazy for Danny this weekend. It was a little rough to watch as such a big Danny fan, but that's a different story. We are going to move in to our sprint quali coverage, and I really cannot be the only person that was absolutely wheezing over the F1 TV team's Jos Verstappen commentary. But I'm also somebody who will never in a million years complain about Jos slander. It's just, I mean, I've said it before, if the shoe fits.
And does it ever? And honestly, because of that, it had me on the floor.
I think my favorite thing with Sprint Quali 1 was the fact that it was Sprint Quali 1 and we were pretty much immediately getting hit with track limits already. And it was only Sprint Quali. Wasn't the whole purpose of all of the changes they made to avoid this? And it was still an issue? I don't understand. I just have to blame it on it being Red Bull Ring, and it's just now par for the course.
Amy, it seems like we're sharing a brain cell, because when you mentioned the whole track improvement thing this year to avoid exactly track limits and track limit issues as last year, I was giggling so much because I was like, did those improvements really help? You guys just wait.
Now, I know all of PGP definitely heard myself and Rachel screaming and absolutely losing our minds because Logan Sargent, what? Holy Mother of God, what was that? That will live in my mind rent-free for like ever. I was just absolutely unwell.
I think that was the first note I put in the doc was, I have to talk about this. Pretty sure I scared the crap out of my cats. And I felt so bad. It was like 7 o'clock in the morning. I was getting ready for work because we multitask in this house. And I think that was the only thing I really paid attention to. Because and I think I froze and I was like, no, oh my God. And then it happened and I was like, oh my God. Incredible. I think it really also shows that Logan has the talent and he has the ability. He's just not been really given a fair shot. But that's just my opinion. I am sad that we lost Danny in the bottom 5. He's been doing so well, but it is also VCarb, so yeah.
Seeing Danny out honestly made me want to cry a little bit. I can't even lie. I so badly want to see him do well, especially given all of the pressure that he seems to be under this weekend. Just in general, it seems like everyone is speculating about what's going to happen with Danny Rick, and I just want to see him prove everybody wrong and just kind of say F the haters, because, F the haters.
Yeah, right? His saying is fuck 'em all, right? FEA. So, FEA people. But back to Logie Bear, I was so happy that he finally had a good first qualifying session. I don't care that it was just sprint qualifying. To me, it still matters because it's him. But I hope it wasn't too late for him because of all the talks going on and everything with that second Williams seat. But I hope the team will see that he's trying to make improvements, and he is, and take that into consideration, hopefully.
At the end of Sprint Quali 1, we lost Daniel, Nico, Valtteri, Alex, and Zhou. Now, when we move into Sprint Quali 2, again, the F1 team was really just on one this weekend, making fun of everybody. No one was really safe from the F1 TV team because they were really kind of totally ragging on Lance's contract extension and basically subtly calling him a Nepo baby, which just made me giggle because they are really right with what they were saying. All eyes are on Aston Martin because they really need to start producing more consistent results. We saw them do fantastic last season. It was the expectation that they were going to continue on that path this year. Kind of not really being the case right now, but I was just giggling for the fact that they really were just being a little catty. I mean, we know the F1 TV team can be a little out of pocket, but I just really didn't have them calling Lance a Nepo baby on my bingo card at all.
I thought that was so funny. I'm thinking that the triple header's kind of getting to them. I'm interested to see what their commentary next week's going to be. That's going to be fun. I also love that they clarified for any new watchers, like Alex Jakes was like, for any new watchers out there, Lawrence Stroll owns the Aston Martin team. And I don't know why I thought that was so funny, but the fact that he made sure to include that just like had me giggling my ass off.
Alex Jakes was like, I'm going to give you the facts because no one's going to be able to come for me for being just like mean. I'm going to make this factual only. Then in Sprint Quali 2, we saw Logan's lap time get deleted for, yep, y'all guessed it, track limits because it's Austria. And are we surprised at this point?
No, not at all. I really didn't expect those changes to do much at all. And you know what? His track time got deleted for track limits, but he still outqualified Alex. A win is a win. I'll take it. A win is a win.
A win is a win, Rach, and we will happily take that as the Sergeant Girlies of the group. I was really surprised with the Alpines in Sprint Quali 2. They were both in the top 10 again. I feel like their improvements kind of came out of left field. I know they still have issues with the car, with the fact that they've got a lighter chassis versus a heavier chassis, but like they had some pace this weekend, and I was really surprised. At the end of Sprint Quali 2, we lost Kevin, Lance, Fernando, Yuki, and Logan. I will say I loved that Logan's engineer was, again, being very supportive of him and saying that there's still tomorrow to come, with the fact that they had another quali session. So it is nice to see that the team is, I think they're starting to see the potential that he actually has, now that they've given him a car that he can do something with. I just hope that they continue to be supportive. We'll see.
Yeah, I'm watching James Vowles very closely. That man is on my list, and he's slowly moving up. But I still think it's funny how they added all of those gravel traps, they made all these changes, and it's just for decoration at this point.
Yeah, and I mean, speaking of the gravel, it's actually causing more issues than it's helping, because like some of the commentators were saying during Sprint Quali, that the gravel can actually be kicked up and cause serious injuries to the drivers at the speeds that they're going. So Austria really needs to figure something out to stop these track limit violations and not just use the gravel, because it's actually dangerous instead of smart. So
definitely, while gravel might slow you down, the injury risk is there from it going flying. All I can say is, at least in F1, there is some more metal protecting the drivers compared to other motorsports that use gravel traps. And that's something I'm grateful for every single time.
At the start of Sprint Quali 3, everyone was just kind of like chilling, and George William Russell was just itching to get out there. And I was giggling the whole time because he was just like really, really like being like a little kid, where it was just like, I want to go, and I want to go right frickin' now. And I mean, I don't blame him. Like, I wouldn't want to sit there. Like, if I'm in a car and I'm ready to race, I just want to get out on track and like go. Why am I going to sit there? and twiddle my thumbs. So I do understand it, but it also had me wheezing at the same time.
No, for real. How much caffeine did he have that day? Because it's understandable they don't have a lot of time. I think they have like 8 minutes in SQ3. But just, I was like, George, deep breaths, hon. Deep breaths. You're going to be fine. You'll get your turn. It's okay.
And then we had Mercedes being like, dare I say it, a little petty and more or less telling George to go slower so that people maybe didn't get out on time. I just was kind of giggling. And then we have Ferrari. Oh my God, Ferrari, please stop it. My heart. I seriously cannot. Who cursed them? Because it looked like Charles' anti-stall kicked in, and that was just a hot mess. I really and truly need to understand who they pissed off.
Yeah, it was his anti-stall, and he also said that his engine turned off. I don't know what happened there. But just ever since Monaco, he's been having a really rough time. Ferrari in general, but like especially Charles. It's like the universe just were like, yeah, you can have Monaco, but that's it. That's all you're getting.
That's what I was thinking. I was thinking when I saw that Ferrari was starting the season so well, but since Canada, it's been just a shit show. Like, what happened?
When I tell y'all that I was screaming at my TV because people had waited too long to go out on track, oh my God, what the hell was that? I can't remember the last time I've seen that happen in any sort of quali format where people didn't get to set lap times because they didn't get out on track in time. I was really unwell. Our final lineup was Max in first, Lando in second, Oscar in third, George in fourth, Carlos in fifth, Lewis in sixth, Checo in seventh, Esty in eighth, Pierre in ninth, and Charles was in 10th, who did not get to set a lap time. I personally really loved getting to see Oscar in the top three, but I am just really slowly becoming an Oscar Piastri fan, and I don't know when it happened, but I love it.
Yeah, agreed. I love Oscar. He's great. He's also an Aries, so I mean, I have to be a fan. I will say I'm a little bit more of a fan of his mother than him, but it's fine. Post-sprint qualifying, Alex was given a pit lane start because he had to change a few components on his car in Parc Fermé. I don't remember what the components were, but they also were very technical, so I probably wouldn't really be able to explain them very well anyway. But he was given a pit lane start for the sprint. Now, the sprint race was kind of interesting. It was an aborted start due to the position of some of the photographers at turn 1. So then they got an extra formation lap, and that made the race 23 laps instead of 24.
Honestly, that false start gave me flashbacks to 2023 when Esteban almost went bowling in the pit lane. I'm just glad those photographers got out of the way in time and didn't have to run for their lives.
And then right off the bat, we got an incredible Lando Max battle, just out the gate immediately. Love it. Love to see it.
I mean, F1 TV commentary called it the Max and Lando sprint before they went lights out. So they were just living up to that title at this point in time.
Now, I'm not going to lie. I was kind of falling asleep in the first 4 laps. But in my defense, it was also 3 a.m. on the West Coast. So, I mean, there is that. But by lap 5, that woke me up big time. Between Max and Lando's battle, Oscar coming around and overtaking Lando, that had me awake and on the edge of my seat.
I literally screamed because pop off, Oscar. I kind of honestly thought he was going to try to send it past Max too when he overtook Oscar around like lap 5. I actually think I jumped off my couch, and I normally am not somebody who is that active while I watch an F1 race. Will I shout at my TV? Absolutely. But I'm generally staying sat.
Yeah, I honestly wish Oscar just, like, sent it on Max. But honestly, I don't know how much it would have done in the end, since it's not really worth it, because sprint races don't really offer a huge points haul. So, and it's also not worth, like, risking damage to the car and then affecting quality later in the day in the race. But I'm glad Lando did try to send it, just to kind of get a taste of what it would be like the next day, and just kind of figuring out Max and all that would happen. But it also shows he's not afraid of Max. He's capable of sending it on Max. And it also gives an idea of what risks he should be taking in terms of the next day.
100%. Also, the Alpines battling each other, per usual, the whole time made me so nervous. I will say, looking at it now, post-sprint, though, I think Oscar's overtake of Lando, while incredible and fantastic, was almost like, I don't want to say unnecessary, but that's like the only word I can think of right now. But I really think Lando could have and probably would have had Max, but they ended up almost 5 seconds behind Max, and they were more battling each other. And I mean, I know sprint doesn't, like you said, come with like a huge points haul, but like that would have been, I feel like we could have gotten a precursor Lando Max battle.
Just really quick, I also think, like, this is my opinion, I don't know if everyone shares this opinion, but when it comes to racing, I think Lando's better at strategy and also race pace, and he's stronger when it comes to races. So I think it would have been smarter team orders to tell Oscar to let Lando go past. Although Oscar, he seems to be a beast in sprint races because they're shorter and you go fast. And, like, he kind of has been faster this weekend, but also Lando has been. But like Rach said, you never know. It's always what ifs and buts and all that stuff. But who knows? Could have been a precursor.
We also, at the end of everything, saw Nico Hulkenberg be given a 10-second time penalty and 2 penalty points for forcing Fernando Alonso off the track in the sprint race. I don't know where I stand on that, but like, can the Haas boys please stop getting penalty points? First Kevin, now Nico. It's just, this is a trend for the Haas team that I don't really love. So like, please get it together, guys. Now, when we got into quali, Q1 had me seriously scratching my head because Checo had me beyond underwhelmed in quali. Like, he was in 12th at one point. In a Red Bull? Really? Like, get it together, man. I really, really, really think that Red Bull needs to start reconsidering that contract extension. Because, oh my God, he signed a contract and his performance has gone to hell in a handbasket.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on there, but it really doesn't look good for his future at Red Bull, especially if his contract is in fact a 1-1. And if the Red Bull contract rumors are true, where they are contracted as Red Bull drivers and they can do all of their switcheroos around during the season, they might be, Marco might be doing some looking right now.
I mean, honestly, if I were Helmut Marko and Christian Horner, I would definitely be looking, especially if they're employed by Red Bull and not their specific teams is true. Because that Checo performance, jump scare, and I'm not a Checo fan whatsoever. Also, I can't remember who said it or when it was said during the weekend. I just know it was said on F1 TV because that was the coverage I was watching this weekend. It is so true for Red Bull that they have Max as a driver who can truly, truly deliver. I mean, it's Max. Look at his championship lead, for example. but that if he has an issue or if someone's faster than him, they're basically done for the weekend. Whereas other teams, the quote unquote second driver can pick up the slack, if you will. Whereas Checo, at least right now, and honestly, since, dare I say, Australia last year, he cannot do that in the Red Bull.
I have to agree with you, Ito. I feel like Checo is not as reliable as people make him out to seem, for like the man who's been dubbed the Mexican Minister of Defense. Like, how can you defend when your teammate's in first and you're rocking in 6th or 12th? Like, the math doesn't math. If I'm being really honest, sorry y'all, someone's got to say it. It might as well be me. Now, at the end of quali or Q1, we lost Alex, Lance, Valtteri, Logan, and Zhou. Kind of feels like your standard Q1 exit for me. I'm not that surprised by it.
Am I surprised that we lost both Williams in Q1? No, not at all. Like I said, a win is a win. Logan did well in the sprint quali. He did well in the sprint itself. I will take it. It truly is the little things in life.
I don't think anybody is really all that surprised when Williams goes out in Q1, bestie. But like you said, it's the little things. We will take the wins that we can take.
Sauber desperately needs Audi, my bad. And it shows, considering they haven't made it out of Q1 at all this year, unless you consider SQ1 in China. So not even an actual like qualifying session. Well, I mean it is a qualifying session, but you guys know what I mean. And they just need help desperately, and I feel so bad for them. Also, bad look for Aston with Lance, similar with Red Bull and Checo and his performance during qualifying. Just not great on these re-signs for contracts. Not good.
They probably all said, we're safe now. We can stop performing. But honestly, I agree with the whole Audi and Sauber thing. I feel like Sauber at this point has just given up. And that is probable because they actually fast-tracked, at least on the back end, Audi's overtake of Sauber, because it wasn't supposed to start until next year, but it actually started a couple of months ago, like in the back office thing situation.
And then we moved on to Q2, which gave me my personal favorite moment of the weekend of Daniel Ricciardo outperforming Yuki Tsunoda. While he was so goddamn close to making it to Q3, like literally milliseconds, according to his race engineer, that has to be beyond painful, if I'm being really honest. Like, the man was out by 5,000ths of a second, which just really broke my heart because I want to see him kick butt and take names.
It was such a sad sight, especially that now that it was his 250th race, and also with the whole contract rumor mill. Like, Danny doesn't need this.
And then we also had Esteban Ocon outperforming Pierre Gasly, who went wide into the gravel on his final lap around, I think it was turn 6 was where he went wide. The end of Q2, we lost Daniel, Pierre, Kevin, Yuki, and Fernando Alonso. In Q3, we had to have some gravel cleanup from probably Pierre going wide, and David Coulthard, as per usual, gave us some funny little quote of one with brush, one with blower. I don't know why it made me giggle, but it really did. Maybe it's the accent. Maybe it just was I needed a little chuckle in the middle of my race weekend. Can't really tell ya. But Nico Hülkenberg has been super consistent with qualies this year, and I'm really impressed, and I'm not the biggest Hülkenberg fan.
It definitely makes me excited for his move and all of that when Audi comes in. I know he's moving next year to Sauber, but like Are they really going to be that good next year? Probably not. Maybe he'll get them out of Q1 though. But when Audi comes in, I'm really excited to see what happens and how he does, because he's been doing so well.
Our final lineup is as followed. Max Verstappen with an over 4.404 second lead. Lando Norris in second. George in third. Carlos in fourth. Lewis in fifth. Charles in sixth. Oscar in seventh. Checo in eighth. Nico in ninth. And Esteban Ocon rounded us out in 10th. Oscar originally was third, but his lap time was deleted, which McLaren did lodge a protest with the FIA against, but the FIA deemed it inadmissible. Charles, with his lap, went way off into the gravel, which was just a mess, personally.
Ferrari girlies, we cannot catch a break. Charles said over his radio that it seriously messed up his floor, and at this point, it's kind of becoming more disappointed, not surprised.
Definitely. I mean, honestly, it is giving at least he can continue the weekend.
And then in the post-race interviews, it was very apparent, to me at least, that Lando Norris was definitely a little sick this weekend. You could just kind of hear it in his voice when he was speaking. I mean, it is a triple header, so I kind of also feel like it was bound to happen at some point that somebody was going to get sick or something. So not super surprised, but definitely felt bad.
Yeah, felt bad for my guy. He looked it too in that post-race interview. He just looked drained. But on the topic of Max, Mans is just insane when it comes to qualifying. He turns into a demon, I swear. Even Zach Brown tweeted saying basically something along the lines of Max is just incredible, and he always finds performance in that car when it matters, every single time. I think it also helps that he's starting to feel the pressure from the McLaren boys. He just knows they're sitting right back there, like that meme on social media where it's what Max sees in his mirror, and it's a selfie of Oscar and Lando. That's what he sees, and that's why he goes fast. Mans goes fast. But back to Charles, he's had no good luck with either quali session this weekend. Not even just one of them. At least he could have had one. But he didn't have one good one. I don't know. Maybe because of the whole Monaco thing, that's why it all came back on this one weekend, or not even this one weekend, but it seems like this weekend was a lot for him.
I feel like Charles is one person who truly cannot catch a break. And when he does catch a break, everything gets worse after that. He gets something good and the universe is you can have that, but that's it. You're not getting anything else. Have fun.
Now, some post-quali news that happened is the fact that Yuki Tsunoda was fined by the FIA for an infringement of Article 12.2.1K of the International Sporting Code for, quote, inappropriate comments made on team radio during Q1. He was fined about 40,000 euros. 20,000 is suspended for the remainder of the season on the condition that there is no infringement of a similar nature for the rest of the season.
While I must admit, 20 to 40k is steep, even if he's a millionaire, and B-Carb will likely cover it in some shape or form. It was bound to happen for that guy. I was actually surprised it didn't happen sooner. He survived until now with the way he is speaking and is known to speak. Wow.
Now, moving into race coverage, Checo was really putting work in at the start with some serious overtakes. I was mildly impressed. But, Lord, the fact that Charles Leclerc needed to box after the first two laps of the race because of contact with Oscar, we've said it before, we'll say it till we're blue in the face. This man is absolutely cursed.
Yeah, apparently Saturn went retrograde yesterday, and Saturn's the planet of discipline, goals, boundaries, and karma. And that applies to good karma too. So I literally think the universe went, "All right, Charles, that's enough of that's enough good karma for you. We got to reset."
Around lap 13, we have the Haas boys just like not playing nice. I was seriously side-eyeing Kevin Magnussen because, oh my God. And then he, of course, was spicy, as always, it seems, where he got told to, quote, save his tires. And he responded with just me or Nico too, which that is a fair response. And of course, he's the one driver on the grid who's just going to absolutely casually just go F that to his race engineer because it's Kevin. And why are we surprised?
And honestly, maybe the spice is warranted because rumors, again, are flying with Kevin that he too will be leaving Haas at the end of the year.
And I mean, Germany did beat Denmark in the Euro Cup match yesterday, so this might be a little bit of bad blood there right now.
Probably. You know how hard Europeans go with their soccer. But apparently they watched it together too, or at least the start, because that 2-0 must have hurt for Denmark.
Around lap 21-22, we had Fernando and Zhou having a collision, which resulted in Fernando getting a 10-second penalty for causing said collision. Lewis also got some issues where he was crossing the white line for pit entry, and Oscar Piastri was oh so quick to call that out. David Coulthard has it correct, the eyes of youth, because I wouldn't have noticed that myself. Lewis got a 5-second penalty for that action, but it is what it is. We had a no further action on a potential unsafe release for Max Verstappen with his pit stop. Some people will be a little pissed about that one, but it is what it is.
Yeah, I feel like there should have been some kind of penalty just because it definitely looked like it could have been a really, really bad collision. But like you said, it is what it is. The FIA is going to FIA.
I think the most heartbreaking thing for me this race was seeing Charles Leclerc running in 18th at lap 30 while Carlos Sainz was in 4th. That just really hurt my soul. Ferrari needs to get it together. We've said it a million times. We'll say it a million times more.
Yeah, again, he's just having such bad karma right now, and I really need Saturn to just turn it around, because, like, how much more is it going to take to balance all this out? Because it's getting a little ridiculous.
It is getting so ridiculous. Then again, it's Charles Leclerc. But at least he has Brian, his new race engineer, in his corner, with all the encouraging messages, but even those can only do so much, because it feels like if he didn't at least have those, he would commit murder.
And as what appears to be standard race procedure, Battle of the Baguettes, per usual. My God, Alpine, you two are going to give me a heart attack one of these days.
Honestly, Pierre was probably just wanting to drive the point home that Esteban is out of his seat next year, and he isn't. He's like, they're my team now, bitch.
No, truly, one thing will always remain constant at Alpine, and that is that they will be fighting each other before they are fighting anyone else. I put on my bingo card, teammate on teammate crime, parentheses, probably Alpine. I do think Pierre is showing Alpine that they made a good decision in re-signing him. He is doing very well, though, all things considered.
Around lap 40, we had Max having some issues with his tires, where he just felt like they really weren't working for him. My favorite thing from Pierre Gasly this entire race was the fact that he said ciao to Esteban Ocon after he overtook him. The sass, I can't. I love it. He's the one person that I would expect to do something like that. I was more expecting an au revoir from, a Frenchman, but ciao works. I'll take it.
I mean, honestly, I feel like he can't wait for the end of the season and, dare I say, slam the Alpine factory door in Esteban's face.
I definitely did not have Max Verstappen feeling the heat from two Haas drivers on my bingo card. Even though they were just trying to unlap themselves, I really didn't see it coming.
I mean, let's be real. They're always good for a surprise in one way or another. Mostly it's the other, but who knows? Sometimes they get lucky.
We had Red Bull making my heart absolutely stop because they had a 6.5-second pit stop for Max and an 8.5-second pit stop for Checo. What on earth was that? I was not okay.
Checo got a 5-second penalty for speeding in the pit lane. I know that. But that still makes his pit stop itself 3.5 seconds, which for Red Bull is not good. Max, I think they were trying to be overly cautious because of what had happened in their earlier pit stop. But 6.5 seconds is a little too overly cautious.
Then we had Lando Norris getting a black and white flag for track limits. He also overtook Max off track, and Max kind of took it back. Then all chaos broke loose because we had contact with Max and Lando, and I know pretty much every PGP girl absolutely screamed when that one happened, because I know I did.
But the fact that Max was allowed to continuously move under braking, which is not allowed, and fun fact, the FIA created a rule because Max kept doing this to Lewis in 2021 and previously in other races, so created a rule because of him that he broke, that they didn't get him for. It was just ridiculous. Granted, Lando did definitely send some dive bombs on Max. I'm not gonna be the one to say that, he definitely didn't do that. He did that, but Max didn't leave room, and it's just so controversial because they were both racing so hard, and nobody has challenged Max like this since Lewis in 2021, which is where we saw similar incidents happening. So, I don't know. Like the F1 TV commentator said, though, Lando was pretty fair to Max, and always has been fair to Max in battles, but the minute the tables turn, Max is not necessarily that fair to Lando. Granted, like I said, Lando had some dive bombs that I don't know if he should have done, but I think he also was just getting upset because he knew he had that 5-second penalty coming.
We had Max have a puncture as a result of the contact with Lando. He was able to get back to the pits. As Meg had kind of called it, Lando did get hit with a 5-second penalty for overtaking off track.
And I always watch Lando's driver cam. It just makes me less stressed out. I don't know why. I have to know what's going on with him at all times, because they don't always show everyone on the main stream or whatever you want to call it. And I thought he served the penalty before they retired the car because the mechanics and nobody touched his car for 5 seconds. But I did read afterwards that apparently they added it on to his time because he finished enough of the race. So no repercussions for Silverstone, unlike Checo, who had repercussions for a previous race because of a similar issue.
Yeah, so the penalty was for track limits, not really for overtaking off track, because he got the black and white flag, and then while he went off track and overtook Max kind of at the same time, it just happened to be the same incident. But I'm happy that he doesn't have any repercussions for Silverstone, because I think that's going to be a great race.
That Lando DNF really, really hurt my heart. I have slowly joined Meg on Team LN4, and that one just really, really hurts.
He should have won that race, just like he should have won in Barcelona. So it's just so unfortunate that this whole incident happened, but it just means that Max is starting to feel threatened by Lando, and that's a good thing as a Lando fan. Not necessarily that he, got damaged and had to retire from the race, and now he is not the only driver to score a point every single race. So the meme on Twitter, goodbye, 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 you were bigger than the whole sky. Goodbye to Lando scoring points every race.
Max was hit with a 10-second penalty for causing a collision. And now I know I definitely am probably not alone in the fact that I did not have George William Russell leading, let alone winning, the Austrian Grand Prix on my bingo card.
I don't think anyone had it on their bingo card. I mean, they even mentioned on the radio that they couldn't have fathomed this in Bahrain at the start of the year. Plus, it's Toto's home race, so that makes it extra special for him, I bet.
Oh, he jumped on the radio so quick. He was so excited. It was really cute. But Oscar Piastri really impressed me this race. From 7th to 2nd, absolutely iconic. Hell yeah.
That's my Aussie boy. That's my guy. I wish he got the win there, especially because of what happened after Lando. But his time will come. He's going to get that win, and it's going to come soon. I know it. He deserves a race win, and I hope he can get one this year. Fingers crossed for him.
I really think his time will come, and I do think it'll be soon. He would have won this race had his lap time and quali yesterday not gotten deleted. So it will be soon.
We had Carlos Sainz finish in 3rd. I know I'm not the only person who loves a chili podium. It's just my favorite thing to see. Max finished in 5th, even after the penalty that he got handed. We had both Haas boys in the points, which I love that for K-Mag, honestly. I feel like we've seen Nico in the points. This is the first time Kevin's gotten points this season. I love it for him.
Haas has made very strong improvements this year in comparison to past years, and it's very impressive. Like, the amount of points they scored today was the amount of points they scored all of last year. So I think that's pretty crazy. And they also moved up a place in the Constructors' Championship. They're now in 7th, which, good for them. I'm happy for them.
And, of course, my favorite thing, we got points for Danny Rick. He finished in 9th, which I just love to see. Hell yeah, baby. George Russell's radio message had me giggling, even as a George hater. He also has officially made the T-pose like his post-win thing, and I love it. I'm pretty sure he said yabba dabba doo on his radio message, and I just, it made me giggle. I love it. It also was a home race win for everyone's favorite Austrian, Toto Wolff. I really have to agree with the F1 TV team. I kind of think we are seeing the Lando Max bromance fall to the wayside just a little bit. Things are definitely going to be a little tense and testy after this race, but hopefully if they talk it out, things will be better. We'll see.
This is definitely one of those situations where if any convo is had before they cool down and like regroup on their own, things will be said and friendships will be ended. I will also say that I'm adding this to the list of reasons F1 teams should have licensed therapists on deck at every race. And also the DTS producers are going to eat this up. I am so interested to see that.
I mean, the media has already started. They are trying so hard to make Max and Lando into a Mercedes 2.0. And honestly, it's a mistake that Lando seems to be feeding into that narrative and enjoying it too. Like, my guy, that is a mistake that you're gonna regret if it comes down to it. Because it's gonna, in all likelihood, destroy a friendship.
Of course, we had Lando Norris as driver of the day. I feel like that's kind of standard for him at this point.
Yeah, I think he is a fan favorite, which is why he's definitely been getting the votes. And also I think it's because he has been challenging Max. But, I mean, I'm always happy when he wins it because I am a Lando girly. And I think it was like kind of like a big FU to the FIA and everyone who says that what happened today was Lando's fault. He had a great race today, minus what happened in the end and the track limits violations. But I do have to say, I personally would have voted for Oscar for driver of the day, considering he started in 7th and finished on the podium. Granted, it only happened because of the collision. Still, he would have finished, 4th? That's still a movement of 3 places, or I would have given it to one of the Haas guys. That's just and that's coming from a Lando fan, by the way.
And then the fastest lap is the thing that like threw me the most because it went to Fernando Alonso.
That was so funny to me, especially because he wasn't even in the points. He just like nicked it from Max at the literal last second and said, no extra point for you. Sorry, not sorry. He literally pitted and did fresh tires so he could get the fastest lap, and he wasn't even in the points. And I thought that was just like, it's a little bit petty, and I kind of love it.
I personally loved the fact that Oscar was like, you did just win the race because of it, when George said that Max and Lando was like a cool fight. I mean, facts, you're not wrong, man.
I mean, Max did it last year, put on the fresh tires to get the fastest lap, so why not Fernando this year? But definitely out of nowhere, especially because it meant he didn't get the fastest lap point due to not being in the top 10. I guess Petty King Fernando was at it again. And it was enough for Max to just not get that point.
Not George and Carlos laughing watching the incident of Max and Lando, and Carlos even saying something along the lines of, the old Max is back, or something like that. Was not expecting that in today's after race cool down podcast.
What made it even funnier to me was George going, we shouldn't be laughing, while continuing to laugh. It's such a British thing to say.
I will say George did take that comment in stride, and he played it smart today. Yesterday in post-quali interviews, he said that, quote, these two, meaning Verstappen and Norris, were pretty dicey in the sprint race, so I think I'll sit back, watch them do their thing, and hopefully sneak through on the inside. And, well, he kind of did, so, props for that, I guess. Good strategy.
Now, while we could talk about this race all day because, oh my god, this race was chaos, we are going to move on to the fun part of our race recaps, which is predictions. I, as always, pulled out my pendulum and my crystals for my predictions. So let's see what I got. P1, Oscar Piastri. I feel like I've had him in my predictions the last few races, and I just love that. I will lose my mind if he wins in Silverstone. P2, Lando Norris. Again, would also lose it. It'd be nice to have a Brit on the podium for the British Grand Prix. P3, Max Verstappen. I mean, you kind of can't count the man out for the most part, but we'll see what happens.
I mean, I think we know what I'm going to say here, y'all, but I'm just going to keep it quick, short, sweet. I'm going Lando for that win, and I think he's going to be even hungrier for that win after today, and he wants that win, especially at Silverstone. That is the one I think he wants more than any race on the calendar, so it just adds to that hunger even more. And as for P2 and P3, I honestly don't really care, other than I would love to see Oscar up there with him, because I think it would be bittersweet for the two of them, because it's also McLaren's home race, so I think that would be great. And maybe Carlos, get two of his best mates up there for a win at Silverstone.
I was going to say Lando or Georgie Boy for P1 in Silverstone, but George won today, so it's Lando's turn. And I do think Lando is kind of more likely to get it. Honestly, though, give me an all-Brit podium. Give me 3 British drivers, all of them up there. That would be iconic. I do think it's possible for McLaren to get a 1-2, so I'm definitely hoping and predicting that. Literally whoever in P3, most likely Max, but I don't care who.
I mean, honestly, Max P3 would be kind of funny. Not gonna lie. But as for my magic dice, we have a prediction of Carlos P1, Kevin P2, and Lance P3. Is that realistic? Maybe one of them is. The other two, not really, because those boys have not been on a podium in a while. I mean, Kevin not since his rookie race.
I'm pretty sure for that podium to actually happen, complete and utter chaos would need to occur. But we'll find out. And to close out our episode, we have I guess you could call it a fun fact. And that is the fact that PGP's very own KC was actually at the race this weekend. So we were getting some fun little behind the scenes texts from her. The group chat loved it. We love KC. We hope she had the best time at the race. I am assuming she did, even though she is a Max fan, and was probably really sad that he did not finish the race in first, but it was a fantastic race to watch. Who doesn't love a race recap? Did anybody make predictions on how many track limit deletions we'd see? Let us know what your thoughts are on social media. Everywhere we are Paddock Girls Podcast, except on Twitter, where we are Paddock Girls Pod. Thank you so much for joining us in the paddock, and we will see you at Silverstone next weekend. Bye!
Bye!
See you, mate.
Bye.